just touching on smart government and e-government. So the one I find the most fascinating and probably the best success story in South Africa, and the one also still with a lot of upside, is the financial sector. Because the evolution of fintech in South Africa has actually been astounding, and often people don't even appreciate. So it's not only in the type of financial services offered, but it's also the technologies underneath that are, in some cases, world class. And there have actually been one or two unicorns, startups which have achieved $1 billion capitalization in South Africa and in Africa. So this is an area where one certainly would need to see how to develop further. And the great thing is it's embraced by government and the private sector. So you see the Reserve Bank, National Treasury, working much more closely than in some other sectors with the private sector to actually unlock this value. And then you have great investors, the investment in it goes really well. And so the investors have facilitated access to these startups. So we are now world recognized as being one of the premier places, which is strange because we're very much a dual economy. Because on the one hand, you have this cutting edge, but not all the solutions are with the wealthy group. Many of the solutions are actually with the mass market. So cash is still 80% of transactions, even though most people in South Africa have a bank account. And that's quite an amazing feat that they are banked, but often just use the bank account to get the money at the end of the month and turn it into cash. So you'll see, like on taxis, cash is still king, let's say, in terms of the volumes of transactions every day. So there's still a lot of opportunities to move to a high level of digitization within the sector. And the fact that a lot of people depend on social grants means that there is opportunity for engagement with those individuals, at least on a monthly basis. There's a big area of small and medium businesses in the informal sector, which has many financial needs that are being tapped into, but could still be further tapped into. So township economies are still strengthening and going well, partly digital and partly not. And there's a number of areas where the demand has grown, like cross-border money transfers, many prepaid services. We take it for granted, I think, that when you want to buy prepaid electricity, you just get an SMS. And that's great because that enables South Africans, even with an old 2G phone, which is actually 60%. Sorry, the top line should say 60% make use of 2G phones still. They can get the code, so they can also participate at that level. But you have big areas like the taxi industry that could still do so much more. Fortunately, well, the COVID pandemic wasn't fortunate, but one of the better outcomes was this inflection point in terms of people using digital commerce much more. And the momentum has partly been picked up, but could easily be picked up more. And what we're seeing is a convergence between different sectors. So you're seeing the financial sector, you're seeing the mobile sector, because the smartphones where a lot is happening. You're seeing the retail sector. If you think about the financial transactions, other than buying groceries that are going on in the top retailers like Checkers, you'll see there's a great convergence and a lot of opportunity to unlock much greater value. You'll see these virtual network operators now, like Checkers and Pick n Pay, have them, Capitec Bank, that are all moving into other spaces and learning how to unlock that. Then with smart government, it's been talked about a long time. Actually, our first seminar, I think, was in 2000, that we had our first seminar. And it means different things. But now we have urgent drivers for smart government. You've got rapid urbanization. Sub-Saharan Africa is faster than anywhere else in the world. So you've got more and more people coming rapidly into cities, needing to be serviced, diminishing resources even as those populations grow. You've got threats of climate change and the need for sustainable solutions to those climate changes. And you've also got a need for safety. That's another big requirement. So Um, we haven't really seen as much development in the space as one could. And one has to think why. I've done a plan, well, not only by myself, but with one municipality. So I realized what a big job it is. It's very complex. You need to have overall integrated plans. There has to be budgets allocated to smart city type activities. They often sit in other budgets. They're not specifically for Internet of Things or smart devices, etc. They're sort of hidden. So there needs to be more explicit budgeting. The mind shift of procurement is still very much accountability. And of course, you can understand why, because you can get into trouble as a city official quite easily. So there needs to be a balance of innovation and accountability. They both need to be developed. Now, just an example of the platform mindset that I mentioned. I don't want to be controversial at all, but because load shedding is such a big issue on our minds at the moment, the old paradigm of producing a product was when you produced power, electricity. The new paradigm, and it's actually not only in South Africa, it's actually globally this is happening at various speeds, is that the platform becomes an enabling platform for various power generators and various consumers. And that platform, so we talked about platforms, here's a perfect example of what can happen at the municipal and the Eskom level. And in fact, the chart from the diagram from Vodacom shows how they've helped to bring that together, what they call virtual wheeling, where you're buying and selling power over a transmission grid. It's a very exciting development in my mind, and it actually brings us up with the world's best. And there are many tweaks to it. For example, if you want to buy more renewables, you can actually choose. You don't have to buy what you're given at your house. You can choose what mix of usage you want, which is very much what is happening in countries like in Europe. I think it's a great response to a crisis. It involved, again, government and private sector collaboration, which is great, and also between different tiers of government. So what type of mindset do we need? The minister talked about a 21st century mindset. One needs openness. It's not only openness to ideas, but open sourcing, open access, moving away from proprietary solutions in many cases, not always, but where relevant. Partnerships are the essence of the platform economy and digitalization. And this is, if you look at the policies of many countries around ICT, they talk about fostering partnerships. If you look at mobile operators, they talk about building partnerships. 5G in particular is specifically a partnership-based technology. You can't just plonk 5G and expect it to grow. Not so much the early versions we have now in the mid-band spectrum, but the low latency, high reliability type of spectrum has networks will definitely be partnership-based. You need to know when to deliver as government and when to enable, because platforms are about enabling. And I'm even thinking, how would one think of oneself as government, as a platform, or even as a curator of platforms? Just, how would one work if one thought of oneself in that sense? Just out of interest, GovTech is a platform. It's not a digital one, but it's where people come together, and the more you have, the more value you have. So it's not a new concept. It's just one that's, needs to be developed in the digital world. Then you cannot have silos with a platform economy. There has to be exchange of information. If you look, for example, within Amazon, there are rules. You can get fired for being too siloistic, for not sharing your information you're getting in your area for others. There's specific rules about how it gets shared and how it must be shared. So there needs to be far more cooperation between the entities involved. You have to combine long-term planning, which I already mentioned, with short-term flexibility. everybody was planning, quite a few things in the longer term, and then suddenly one day ChatGPT said, we're going to open this tomorrow. And people were in shock because they hadn't realized that AI was going to happen tomorrow. And so governments and societies have to be responsive in the immediate as well as having long-term plans. And you have to have agility. And many countries have specifically looked for quite a few years, like Canada, Singapore, at how to become agile policymakers and agile regulators. And there are quite a few aspects to that. In finance in South Africa, we have sandboxes, which I understand Acosta is looking at how to develop that. So that's great. That's part of that agility. Now, looking at South Africa at the moment, probably coming just over my 20 minutes. I won't go to all the different elements, but I'll just say that many South Africans are engageable. Because they get grants, they already have to be engaged with. So that's a huge advantage when you think about the abundance thinking. And also, through COVID, it was quite remarkable, and I don't think we fully appreciated how the immunization process was managed in terms of getting to every citizen with education, with bookings, with management, with recording. I mean, it wasn't a trivial exercise, and it's quite amazing that we can do that under pressure. So we need to build on the successes and the demonstration of who we can be in a much broader sense. So there are many digital programs. The one I've just touched on is the Who Am I project, Birth to Death, let's call it, Cradle to Grave, which involves a whole lot of different projects, of which the integrated justice system ones and that whole cluster are central to. They've been going for a while, but they really need to be landed because that's central to digitalization of us, although, obviously there are concerns about what gets done with our information and how much control it can lead to. So there needs to be participation in that, but essentially there does need to be centrality of information like that to make it easy. I mean, it's quite amazing if you go to Home Affairs and you want to get processed and the birth certificate's been digitized for a younger person versus non-digitized for an older people. It can take days versus months, or even in my case, I think I've been waiting 5 years. So digitalization of those records has made a huge difference. But the IFMS project, which has been going, I think we've been reporting on it for over 10 years, to have finance at all levels of government integrated and sorted out is actually an incredibly important element. And it's really fantastic. Now, I wouldn't say I'm a big fan of the city of Cape Town, living there, municipality, but I do appreciate the fact that I can do so many interactions online and that they do have this underlying, well, in their case, SAP, financial system that does integrate, and they do have the information that you use on one transaction passed on to the other one. And I know it's a clunky system. I know, a lot can be done, but I do appreciate that there is that centrality. And then the challenge probably that I wanted to make sure I got out today was whether we as a country want to look at a potential government procurement platform. And I know CETA's been talking about it, it's one of their key initiatives, so it's not sort of my idea, but I'm just, because it's a CETA conference, we talk about platform, just want to raise it right in the beginning. And just to mention that there are many countries that can be used as examples. Australia, India with their GEM, buy and sell in Canada. In the UK, there's one specifically for cloud services. And then the Nordic countries have actually got together collectively and developed a platform. Then artificial intelligence is another area of potential great abundance, but also great threat. And I think people did get a shock when it came out, that it happened so quickly, and anyone who's used it will be completely blown away by what you can do so quickly. One of my press releases on BMIT's report, I'll be honest, we took the report, fed it into ChatGPT, got a press release. I changed a little bit, and we actually sold really well on that report. So I'm certainly sold on it. And it's not only words and verbal text, it's also video, art, essays. So if you've used it, I think it would need no further encouragement. If you haven't, please play with it, because it absolutely is game changing. Our company, our productivity has shot up because our staff take so much less time to do research and to crystallize the research. In the research that was done in South Africa, 70% of the users who used it said it improved their productivity. And AI is being used in many other examples that we're not so familiar with below the line. And Huawei will talk about AI, so I don't need to spend too much time on this. There are many concerns about job replacement, compromising data, company data, and many other doomsday scenarios. So certainly, if I had to give a message, it would mean let's use it, but make sure that we understand how to create the right governance frameworks. But many other countries already have got advanced in that, so it's possible to borrow quite a bit of that. So I've just done a couple of picks and samples of different aspects of digitization. But let's drive our readiness right across the wheel. If you want to, you can go into any of these and get your own information with a sort of text box. But I think whilst understanding there are many problems, there also is a huge potential if we understand the thinking of abundance that the 21st century and Gen Z in many cases is all about. Thanks very much.
Christopher, before you walk off stage, I do want to check if there are any audience questions. But before we get to that, just from a show of hands in the room, and Chris, you're more than welcome to interpret what you can from this. How many of you in the audience have tried ChatGPT? If we can have a show of hands. Okay. How many of you are planning to, like you're curious, you want to see what it actually can do? Okay, not as much as I was hoping to. How do you interpret that? I mean, this show of hands, obviously, maybe in between, there's some people who are a little bit shy, but.
I think it's just there's a bit of nervousness about doing it in the beginning, like getting an account and starting to use it. It often helps to have someone show you, but certainly once you learn how to do it, it's hard not to do it, not to use it all the time. Some people use it a couple of times a day, so I certainly would encourage you, and I'll be around. And if you saw anyone else put up their hand, please grab them and ask them to show you. We created a Valentine's poem for someone. A friend of mine needed it in a hurry, and we created it in about 30 seconds, and the spouse thought it was fantastic.
Okay, so do we have any audience questions? I know we do have roving mics. Any questions? Going once? Going twice? Don't be shy. Okay, so Christopher is still going to be with us. So if at this particular point, maybe there's a question that pops up and you do want to approach Chris, I know that he's going to be with us. Christopher, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks very much.
That is Christopher Geert, who is the Managing Director of BMIT. So Chris has set the stage in talking to us about the trends in digitalization and digitization. And he brought in a word, artificial intelligence, and hence I was just trying to get a sense of the room in terms of how many of you have tried ChatGPT. But to build from that, we're now going to be having a presentation that's going to be looking at the importance of AI and big data in digital transformation. And that presentation is going to be delivered by Nanjing Zhang, who is the Chief Architect at Huawei South Africa. A little bit about him as he approaches the stage. He graduated from Hearst. He joined Huawei in 2007 and has more than 20 years experience in ICT and IT solutions. Nanjing, thank you so much for your time.
So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How are you going these days, my friends? Okay. Yeah, so you see, my English name is Zekerman, but I do have the Chinese name. That's the Nanjun Zhang. It's very difficult for my friends to say my Chinese name, okay? Especially in 10 years ago, when I was in Latin America countries, like Mexico, like Venezuela. Oh, very, very difficult for them to say my Chinese name. So in this case, I changed it. I changed my Chinese name into Spanish name, Zekonil. Yeah, yeah. 10 years ago, my name is Zekonil. But 7 years ago, when I came to Africa continent, especially in South Africa, it looks very strange that, oh, why this Chinese guy have a Spanish name? So in this case, I want to change an English name. So what kind of English name I should have? At that moment, there are a lot of US movies came to our life, like Superman, like Spider-Man. Yeah, a lot. So in this case, I keep half of my Spanish name, Zach, and change another half into man. So this is the Zekerman, my English name. Okay, yeah, yeah. So, sorry. Sorry, I cannot control this.
Nanjing, let me grab that for you.
And then at the same time, I don't want to waste the time, okay? So in this case, a lot of my South Africa customers, friends, or colleagues know me as Zekerman. So why I want to share this story to all clients here? Because I learned a lot from the presentation. Mr. Minister, Mr. Premier, Minister Mayor, even CETA clients. Because they mentioned one very important thing to our life is the changing. So because right now the whole world is changing so fast, and then at the same time, we need to know what are the changing in this world, especially the artificial intelligence world, okay? And then in the year of 2022, Huawei published or released the Intelligent World Report 2030. So from this report, we have a lot of analysis results. So in this case, I pick up three of them. The first one is about the data. So you see, by the year of 2030, the data in the worldwide is going to 1 gigabyte. So what's the gigabyte means? So today is the GovTech 2023, okay? We have lots of sponsors. We have the terabyte sponsor, we have the petabyte sponsor, and we have the exabyte sponsor. So Huawei, of course, is the highest one, exabyte sponsor. And then this data is very, very huge. So in this case, we have to know that in future, we will have a huge data in this world, and not only for the enterprises, but also for the personal. The second one is that many years later, we will have more than 200 billion intelligent connectivity devices. And then another thing is that by the year of 2030, there will be more than 80% artificial intelligence work nodes, which are located in computing centers. So in this case, the world is true that changing so fast. So by these so many changes, what are the things we can do? And then what's the artificial intelligence euro stands for? So I'd like to introduce more about the basic understanding artificial intelligence era. So in the past tens of thousands of years, humankind gone through a lot of stages. So in this case, we divide these different stages into different era, like a farm era, like electrical era. So in this case, right now, we do have the artificial intelligence era. So the artificial intelligence era not only use the technologies like virtualization, like nanotechnology, like machine learning or deep learning. We also use different things like a new chipset, like a new data construction module, like a new other things. So in this case, we are facing a lot of new things in this intelligent era, especially like the market. In the artificial intelligence market, it shows that there will be more than, how much? Yes, 1.8 trillion US dollars marketing sharing by the year of 2030. So what it means that we will have very, very big potential market in the next 10 to 20 years. And then this market is big enough for all the citizens, for all the organizations, for all the governments to share. So why not? We are going to the artificial intelligence era. So this is a very important thing I wish everybody should remember. And then next one is that, so while we are going to the artificial intelligence era, we also face a lot of challenges, like the return of investment, like the tenant, like some other things, especially the investment, return of investment. We take ChatGPT-3 as an example. We have to spend more than 4.6 million US dollars to just finish one train. So the cost is very high for everybody, for every organization or every government. So this is one challenge. Another challenge is that one lack of artificial intelligence upskilled talents. Why? Because this is a new thing. That's why I have to thank a lot to Minister, to Mayor, and also the Premier, because their speech refreshed my mind. Why? We have to change our mind to the new intelligent era and also accept the new things in this world and to get new skills from the new technologies. So this is a very important thing for us. At the same time, if we know what are the technologies about artificial intelligence, we have to do another thing, also very important. So how can we do the implementation of artificial intelligence? This is another very important challenge we are facing. So we are facing so many challenges. How can we solve it? So we have the recommendation. The recommendation is the Artificial Intelligence Computing Center, which is located in country, which is owned by South Africa citizens. And then, so for this, before I introduce the Artificial Intelligence Computing Center, so I'd like to spend a bit of time to explain what are the difference between high-performance computing and artificial intelligence computing. So for high-performance computing is more like the engineering purpose, this kind of technologies or resources. But for artificial intelligence computing, we are focused on the industry transformation. We want to develop the industry technologies and also promote the industry development by using the artificial intelligence computing center. This is for the application scenarios. At the same time, we also needed to find out what are the differences about HPC and AICC from the technical perspective. So what we can know is that except like the concept or the software, between high performance computing and IICC, very important difference is the chipset. By using the traditional chipset, we can realize the high performance computing. But for artificial intelligent computing, we need not only the traditional chipset, we need the mixture chipset. So in this case, it's very new for us. And then we have to understand the difference of high performance computing and artificial intelligent computing. And then we can know that what are the things we need to do. And one very important thing I want to share to all clients here today is that, so for artificial intelligent computing, we have three very important functionalities. The first one is, of course, is a very integrated construction module. Why I want to mention this kind of construction module? Because we know that we have three major challenges. One is the return of investment. One is the capability. Another one is how to do the implementation. If we have this kind of integrated construction module, and then we can save a lot of investment in our artificial intelligent computing center. At the same time, we can get as much as possible the return from this artificial intelligent computing center. And then we can also focus on our resources to upskill all the citizens, all the students, all the enterprises to make sure that we have enough talent in the artificial intelligence era. Especially based on this kind of construction, we will have very, very cost-effective and also very high return of this artificial intelligent computing center. So this is very important, and this is the new in our mind. This is also the very important thing we should consider in our artificial intelligence era, okay? And the next one is that for the artificial intelligent computing, we cannot make it as a private thing, or we cannot make it as, how to say that, very small organizations or enterprises can use thing. We have to make it as a public service thing. What it means that the whole South Africa can use this artificial intelligent computing center by different industries, by different organizations, because only by using this kind of artificial intelligent computing center, we can promote the industry development, and also we can get more talent and skilled resources in South Africa. It means that we will know something like the very traditional jobs, but we will create more jobs in artificial intelligence industry. Not only in the artificial intelligence industry, but also in different kinds of industries, organizations, and government who wants to go to the artificial intelligence era, okay? And then finally, what we can do in this artificial intelligent computing center? Yes, of course, Huawei is a worldwide leading ICT infrastructure product solution and service provider. So we can provide something to our South African customers and citizens and organizations. And we have 3 points about the product. The first one is that we have the modular data center. For this modular data center, we can make the construction time reduce more than 70%. At the same time, we can reduce the power consumption by 60%. So this is very important for us to understand the situation right now we are facing. And then this is also very good things for our South Africa government organizations and citizens to know that this is the way we can shorten the gaps or shorten the distance between the developed countries. The second one is the artificial intelligent computing cluster. So by using Huawei artificial intelligent computing cluster, we can realize very super artificial computing capability, at the same time reduce the calculation duration compared with other OEM vendors 50%. So in this case, the same investment and the same calculation demands, but only half of the time. As we know, time is our very, very limited things. We have to fight with the time, and then we can get more return. The third one is that we also have the artificial intelligence software stack. So Huawei artificial intelligence software stack is not only for Huawei itself. We want to bring more South Africa local organizations, universities, even research centers to join this kind of software ecosystem, because we need more like the service developers in South Africa to do the artificial intelligence industry transformation. At the same time, we need more other developers become the South Africa course now, because we know that in South Africa, especially the young boy or young girl, they need jobs, and they also need to be upskilled. But the traditional ICT, yes, they are good. But if we are going to the artificial intelligence era, we have to make them understand what's the artificial intelligence computing, and also how can they get them skill refreshed, not only the skill, but also the mind reset. So in this case, I do believe artificial intelligence era is coming to South Africa. We can use the artificial intelligence computing center or technologies to promote South African national development, reduce some cost of our investment in the ICT infrastructure, and get more return from our artificial intelligence computing center construction. So finally, what I want to say is that right now, the artificial intelligence euro is coming to South Africa. Let's embrace the artificial intelligence euro and then get more return from this euro, and also support the whole South African national development into a new euro. Thank you.
Nanjing, if you could remain on stage for a few minutes, just so we can see if there are any questions. Also because I'd like to share a very funny story about you with the audience. So a little bit later on, ladies and gentlemen, just checking, are there any questions so far for Nanjing? If you could raise your hand, we do have mics, and I will try my best to get to you. Okay, here's a question there. Gentlemen, if you can just stand up and we'll get a mic to you. In the meantime, I'm going to share the story. So a little bit earlier on, I approached Nanjing. How do I pronounce your name? Because I am a believer in learning how to pronounce people's names and not coming onto stage to butcher them. And he tells me his name, and it escaped me, and I try again. And then he says, no, this is the other name that you can, call me. And it actually about how he changes his name to, I suppose, suit the ear of the person. How many names do you have now? So it's Zackelman in South Africa or Sub-Saharan Africa. And what is the US name?
Yeah, the same,
Zackelman. And in South America?
Yeah.
It's not on a legal document or anything, right? Okay. No. So we did see a... Okay, great. So you can ask your question. Okay, I see there's a mic issue there. They're going to try and swap it around. It's like a relay at the back. It's quite funny to watch. We try again.
Thanks.
There we are.
Thanks very much for the presentation. You talk about artificial intelligence and industrial development, but one of the basic features of industrial development is its ability to create employment. So does artificial intelligence not replace that basic benefit of industrial development? So within your firm. So how do you ensure that artificial intelligence, it works hand in hand with labor and does not replace labor? Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is a very good question. So you see, in every era, there are a lot of new things are coming to our life or coming to this world. So it means that a lot of new things will be created in this intelligent era by using artificial intelligence, computing or technologies. So we lost something. Maybe we lost 100 jobs because of the traditional technologies, but we create 10,000 jobs in the artificial intelligence, this kind of era, by using the artificial intelligence tools. Because all the development in the ICT industry, of course, we will lose the traditional things in our life, but we will have new things in our life at the same time. Yeah. So another thing is that for the benefits to our South Africa citizens, government, or organizations, we have to know one very important thing. We are not a US government or US country. We are still a developing country. We want to reduce the gap between the developed country and the developing country. So we have to catch one step ahead. So in this case, every 10 seconds or every year, we can shorten the gaps or distance between the developing country and the developed country. So we have to do that. Otherwise, well, we are far away from the worldwide. That's what I want to share my idea. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Nanjing, thank you so much.
There is one.
There is one. Okay,
Yeah.
great. If you can stand up, please.
I just wanted to find out if the AI data center is already being developed or if that's a future plan.
Yeah, that's also a very good question. So in worldwide, different countries, the AICC in different stage. For example, in European or United States or in China, they do have the best practice and they built up a lot of artificial intelligence computing center. And then in South Africa, unfortunately, we still need to a lot of work to build up the artificial intelligence computing center, because maybe we are one step, how to say that? Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from the floor? I don't see any. Nanjing, I think, thank you so much for your time. That is Nanjing Zhang, or Zackelman, if those of you who want to call him that. Thank you so much for that presentation. And I think what's also quite important, and I'm hoping this theme is going to come out in the next panel, or perhaps even the one that I'm going to moderate, is that a lot of the times we've been talking about, digital transformation, AI, we're talking about the skills, but the part of the conversation that's quite important is how do we equip the young people for the skills that are going to be required for what we just saw and what we've been talking about. I mean, it's great to talk about it from a university level, but also from the universities, what are they looking for so that we can start filtering through that from the primary school to high school level, so that, our students, our pupils are actually ready for what is required for the future. So hopefully some of those themes will come through in the next panel. And that particular panel is going to be talking about unpacking the digital economy in South Africa. They're going to be looking at what's working and what's not working. And I'm going to welcome to the stage the moderator of that panel, and that is Dr. Loyiso Tiga. He is the MD of ICT SMME Chamber, and he'll also be given the opportunity to introduce his panelists. A little bit about him as he walks over with a big smile on his face. He is an accomplished IT professional holding a BSc in IT from the University of Cape Town, and he also boasts an array of industry credentials. Dr. Tiga, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Before I get into trouble, let me correct one thing. I'm not Dr. Kiecha. This has caused a lot of problems for a lot of people. But in any case, let's get right to it. I want to invite my panel members who will assist us unpack the digital economy in South Africa and what's working and what's not. First up is Sudipto Moitraf, the General Manager from MTN. He holds a Bachelor of Engineering and has worked for companies like TCS and Dimension Data. Next up is Mr. Mlamli Boy. He's the CEO of Centec. Mlamli has worked for companies like Zcoms and Abicom. Yeah. And then next up from Oracle, I've got Mr. Mattis. And then Clayton Naidu is the Senior Director for Africa, Cisco. Mr. Kalane Rampai, MD, Microsoft SA. And lastly, Mr. Subha Kumar from Intuit IT Technologies. Thank you very much. I think I didn't go through their entire CVs, but all the panel members are accomplished in the sector of ICT and business management, and I hope they will assist us to be practical in how we can look at the digital economy in South Africa and really look at what's working and what's not. Also just following up with the theme of digital economy. So I think I will start by making just a few statements just to bring context. If we look at the largest companies in the world now by market cap, the top 10 in the world, out of the 10, about 70%, it's IT businesses or businesses in ICT. And this is the trend that goes up and up. Sometimes it's 9%, sometimes a little bit less. You do the same thing in South Africa, only one is in the top 10, and that's Naspers. If you go 20 years back, the same picture was like that even in the global economy. You had only Microsoft at the time, which would pop up in the top 10. And the rest would be filled by energy companies, oil companies. If you look at South Africa now, it's exactly the same thing. That top 10 is filled with energy companies and IT companies, and that sort of gives you the picture a little bit. But also look at the fastest growing companies in the world, the same picture emerges. The top companies in that picture tend to be technology companies. And I think if you start making the case for digital transformation, it starts coming out of this picture. And in fact, without really going into stats, a case has been made that even for non-IT companies, those companies that are digitally transformed outperform those that are not. So if we're talking about jobs, economic growth, in this 4I era, a case has already been made. I don't think we have time to make the case now, that digitally transformed companies would outperform companies that are not digitally transformed in this era. So the picture ought to look like and track the rest of the world, where at least top 10 of those companies are in the top 10 of those companies, you would have mainly ICT companies, and that's not the picture in South Africa. So that's where we start. So I'd like to start with the global companies. Microsoft, who is one of the companies that features mainly in the top 10 global companies in the world. So in terms of digital transformation, really what gets this to work? What is it that companies like Microsoft do to make sure they sustain that position in the global economy?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Is it on?
Yeah, it's on.
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Thank you. So maybe to start off that with Microsoft, I think one of the things that we believe in Microsoft, and it underpins everything that we do, we exist to empower everyone in the world. So we don't create technology for the sake of creating technology. We create technology to empower people to be able to do more with whatever that they are doing, whether you're an individual or whether you're an organization. How do we empower you? And I think it's the starting block, because technology should not be for the sake of it. Technology should be how it enables. And even there was a gentleman earlier who asked a question about AI, and how AI is going to replace, humans. AI is not going to replace, humans. It never did. Now, no technology has ever been able to replace, humans. If you go to Microsoft, you will hear when we talk about AI, we talk about co-pilot. And why we talk about co-pilot is because we're saying AI will always work alongside the human. AI is there to enable you as an employee, as a professional, as a business, to be able to improve your productivity. And that's what sustains us, because at that core, if you are delivering what society needs, you will always be able to sustain your operations. Secondly, it's about always investing ahead. So technology, costs a lot of money for you to be able to produce it, to deliver it and ensure that the consumption is correct. So you always have to be able to, to invest ahead. And when you invest ahead, it's investing in the relevant stuff. So while today we're all talking about, digital transformation, if you take it back, it started off with the cloud transformation. So when we invested in the cloud technology to enable people to be able to work from the cloud, that has led to the digital transformation that we are talking about today. And this will lead now to the AI transformation, which is the new topic for today. So that sustainability depends on you being able to invest ahead. And therefore, even if you're a small company in here, or you are an organization, a government organization, for you to be sustainable, it means that you have to first start off with the purpose, why you're doing it, and secondly, investing always ahead.
Thank you very much. I would like Cisco Clayton from Cisco. Part of the elements of digital transformation talks to leadership. In fact, there's a concept called digital leadership. And Cisco is one of the leaders in its space and appears in the top 50 biggest companies in the world. Again, what do you think, and contrast it to South Africa if you can, what do you think we can do in terms of digital leadership to ensure that we can propel the country forward in terms of digital transformation?
So firstly, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity. I hope you can hear me loud and clearly. I appreciate the opportunity and time, and I think it's no secret that Cisco have been building platforms that basically connect the internet, and I think 80% of the world's internet traffic traverses around Cisco. Even here in South Africa in the room, since operating in South Africa and largely Africa, we have people in the room that built their careers over time on Cisco, where as networks started to evolve and internet penetration started to increase, Cisco was at the forefront of that. And I think we play a role, more importantly, aligned to our purpose, and I can only echo Microsoft in leadership is, I think you have to lead with purpose now, and Cisco's purpose is to power an inclusive future for all. When we talk about digital leadership and digital transformation, in any country in which we operate, and this is the same across Africa, I think we have a moral obligation as OEMs and vendors, and I think there's a call out to everybody. The first moral obligation we have is to ensure that we connect the unconnected and provide equal access to everybody. I think that's important. The second moral obligation I'd like to talk about is digital skills. It is unfair to sell advanced technologies in a community where you're not providing the equivalent digital skills or the platform in which you could educate the people to participate in that economy, etc. So that's the second key aspect. And the third moral obligation that we see now with the advancements of things like AI, which is broadly spoken about, is is cybersecurity being the heart of it. You know, being the largest cybersecurity company in the world, I think we have a moral obligation to ensure whatever we deploy is secure. So talking about technical leadership, I think it speaks about ensuring as a leader representing multinational global companies like Cisco, you ensure that you participate in providing the right level of both technical skills, both equal access to opportunity, as well as security in any community or country in which you operate. So that'll be our contribution. I think we will further ensure that our purpose is realized as we start to participate in the economy in Africa and South Africa and abroad.
Thank you very much. I just see the Minister of Higher Education and Innovation, the Ministry of HESI has just arrived. Dr. Bladen Zimande, welcome, Minister. So to Oracle, which is another global company. I think I've seen it at some point in the top 50, if I'm not mistaken. One of the things that sit as one of those pillars of digital transformation is innovation. I usually pair innovation with entrepreneurship. So from Oracle's point of view, what is it that you think global companies like Oracle have done well in the area of innovation and entrepreneurship, intra, and what is it that South Africa can learn from that?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. I hope you can hear me well. Actually, I was listening to the minister this morning, and one of the 3 or 4 key priorities he has highlighted during his speech was about building a good infrastructure here in South Africa, bring innovation in the country and develop skills. And actually, I totally align with these 3 priorities. I think one of the key things to bring innovation here in South Africa and in Africa as a continent is probably to develop technology adoptions and try to help people to adopt new technologies, cloud, AI, machine learning. All of these are trendy words, but actually they can be seen quite drastically here on the continent. I think cloud has been a game changer in terms of innovations. For a very long time, all organizations, can be SMEs, can be government entities, or even private sectors, it was not so easy to bring innovation inside of its company. You had to hire engineers, you had to build a team, you had to buy servers. It was very expensive. And not all the organizations were able to have innovation in their entity. Now with cloud, actually it's much easier. All companies, it can be a small startups or a major public administrations. For them, it's very easy, thanks to the cloud, to leverage all these new technologies on the market. And if I take the example of governments, when I'm meeting government people, most of the time, they are sitting on a huge amount of data. Public administrations, they have lots of data, but they don't really know how to use it, how they can leverage this data through technology to be more efficient, to improve their service to their citizens, and at the end, to reduce the cost of IT. So I think the cloud can really bring that in terms of innovation. What we have done at Oracle is to, of course, invest locally, building data centers. We have opened our first data center here in Johannesburg last year. And we are trying to provide to our customers the best infrastructure and applications that will help them to be more efficient and bring technology inside their company. We have also tried to leverage the talent people here in South Africa, because I really think that in terms of capacity building and skills, you need to maintain the talented workforce here in South Africa and in Africa as a continent. And there is a few ways to do that. At Oracle, we have, for instance, to give you an example, we have created a leadership program here in South Africa to make sure we can hire talented South African people and give them responsibilities within the company. But we have also tried to hire engineers and create innovation centers in Africa and not in the